could be the card of the year. Eternal MMA 86. Gold Coast, Australia, June 22nd. My name is Mr. Tinley. Welcome to the Australian MMA podcast. Won't take too much of your time. Let me preview the Eternal MMA 86 card in under 10 minutes. Look, we've got a massive card. Welterweight title, finally. Going to have another champion for Eternal. The belt held by, previously Joseph Luciano. He's going to go out to great things. And Jack Della, of course, number 5 UFC ranked fighter in the world. You hold that welterweight crown, you will indeed probably become a king. Now, we've also got the 2 Grand Prix bouts. It's the 4-man Grand Prix that we thought might not have ever happened, is now happening, just because of guys jumping out and in and yada, yada, yada. But look, it is set. It is a hell of a Grand Prix, and the prize is bloody worth it. Look, let's go down the card. There's loads of other cards. There's loads of other fights, that are super exciting, and ones that you might not even be expecting. But I think fight of the night and knockout of the night isn't even in those top 3 fights that I mentioned. Let's go through them. Look, we will go for, if you want to see Eternal MMA 86, you can, of course, see at 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time in Australia on UFC Fight Pass, June 22nd. That is tomorrow, as of recording. After that, a couple hours later, hit up Australian MMA, and we'll have the immediate reaction and breakdown of what we see. Now, the main event, of course, Lachlan Stitt taking on John Vake for the Eternal MMA welterweight title. Now, this one, there's a write-up, by the way, if you go to australianmma.com.au. I've done like a little preview of my 5 fights to look forward to tomorrow night. John Vake versus Lachlan Stitt. It's real weird. Both men super sort of explosive in their career in terms of hype and what people think they sort of can be. But also both had little stumbles along the way. John Vake, very interesting story. He's been at it for over 12 years, and he's had stumble after stumble, but he's gotten back up every single time. Lachlan Stitt at one point in time, I think, was dubbed, if I get this quote correctly, the hardest man to match in all of the welterweight division by Cam O'Neill, the director of Eternal MMA. Lachlan Deadshot a year ago was the scariest man in MMA. He was the boogeyman. And then he took on a guy named Peter Templar, who shocked the scene. And really, we haven't seen Lachie Stitt since, going back a couple months when he won the Enduro welterweight title. But he suffered some injuries and the unfortunate loss to Peter Templar, and he really sort of took a step back. I mentioned both these boys. They all had interviews with me in the lead up. Australian MMA. Check them out, John Vake and Lachlan Stitt. And Lachlan Stitt kind of had to, in his words, mature a little bit. And then, of course, he put on that great knockout of Dimitri Petridis. Petridis. And then John Vake has had that tough fight against Alden Bates. I think the tough loss against JJ Ambrose. But then he's gone on to have some great victories along the way over the last couple of years. But look, if you talk to anyone at City Kickboxing and anyone in John Vake's corner, they are really adamant that the best is yet to come from John Vake. And he's got all the skills in the world. He's been an amateur wrestler at the Commonwealth Games. Like, he's as good as it gets in terms of grappling. And of course, he's at the best striking gym in the world. So it'd be very interesting to see if John Vake can put it all together. He's great head on his shoulders as well. Lachlan Stitt very much can still be the boogeyman. We'll find out what he can do. But I'd say this title fight, look, it's 5-5s. Lachlan Stitt's total minutes in the cage over his 4 professional fights are just under 8 minutes. So I'd assume that he is coming out to be his nickname and fire the dead shot. And Vake, look, he'll probably strike with him. I'm sure he's not scared, and if he can put Lachlan out on his feet, then that just shows how good Vake is. But if I had to wager a bet, I would say that we see some great grappling from Vake, and we see Stitt looking to invoke the stitches. There you go. What do you think of that? We then move on. Look, co-main event, and I'm going to say semi-co-main event is kind of tied. Both the first round of the four-man Grand Prix. The four-man Grand Prix for the Eternal MMA featherweight belt vacated by Justin Van Heerden or taken off. I'm still not sure. But either way, when he jumped over to Hex, he, of course, left the featherweight belt behind, and Eternal has put together a four-man Grand Prix and a $5,000 cash prize. Crazy money is being thrown around Australian MMA lately. This four-man Grand Prix was originally supposed to be George Mangos, who went on to win the Hex featherweight title. You're going to have to go watch that interview if you want to find out a bit more about that and how that happened. And Dan Jones was supposed to be in it, I believe, and Gabriel Schlupp and Seb Szalay, they're still in it, but this matchup was supposed to be George Mangos and then Dimps Gillies. As Jim Skillies came in from the boxing world, or back in from the boxing world. You might remember Jim Skillies for his 2022 Fight of the Year with Josh Kuhn, another guy who's an absolute stud. Wouldn't have mind seeing Mr. Kuhn back in the Grand Prix, but then Mangos pulled out, so his replacement then that guy needed a replacement. And anyway, Eternal made it happen. And they pulled in Oli Schmid, who is interesting. He's only 1-1 right now, but he's got a devastating sort of spinning back fist knockout at Shuriken. It was super pretty. And his only other loss in his professional career was to Harry Webb, who is essentially waiting for the lightweight title shot at Eternal MMA. And previous to that, it was the Hex lightweight champion. So he's absolute super duper 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 star. So Oli Schmid losing to him in his debut, both the men debut last year. I don't think there's too much shame in that. So I wouldn't be surprised if Oli Schmid is a bit of a dark horse. He'd be definitely the underdog in the field, but at 1-1. But do not sleep on that man. Dimps Gillies, any fight he is in is an absolute back and forth war. And Seb Szalay, while we're talking about it, look, Seb Szalay taking on Gabriel Schlupp. Dimps Gillies taking on Oli Schmid. But we may as well talk about the other ones as well. Seb Szalay originally trained, as far back as I can remember, trained by Soa the Hulk Palele back in the day. Of course, UFC fighter and former Australian MMA pioneer. I guess you'd say pioneer. And then Gabriel Schlupp, don't know much about him, except for his fight against Brogan Stewart, where he got a unanimous decision victory at Eternal. Before that, he's had some fights in, I think, Jungle Fight, which is big Brazil promotion. I don't know if it still is, but his fight with Brogan Stewart, before that, he was a 5-year break. So don't know much about the man. I think he'll be definitely one to watch if you were like wagering, which no gambling promotions seem to be doing. I feel like if you were a betting man, you might bet on Oli Schmid and Gabriel Schlupp, because it's like there's not much known about Schlupp from my point of view, and therefore I think the wider Australian regional focused point of view. But we're about to find out. And look, he's got slick submissions. Seb Szalay, karate fighter. That's ridiculous to call him that. Trains out of freestyle MMA alongside Justin Van Heerden, of course. Alex Volkanovski, if you don't know much about freestyle MMA, it's one of the gyms to be. Seb Szalay seems to be really peaking lately. I'd say he is the most in form fighter recently, especially in this field. Like I said, Gabriel Schlupp, in phenomenal grappler. I know that Eternal's super high on him because he was thrown around, at least what I was hearing, that he was thrown around in just getting straight title shots against Justin Van Heerden, and I think even potentially Seb early on. I don't know if that was a straight title fight sort of offering, but Justin Van Heerden did mention that Gabriel was kind of offered to him, or at least talked about at some stage. So obviously Eternal very high on Gabriel, so do not sleep on him or he will put you to sleep. And then Seb Szalay is just, like I said, just booming. Jim Skillies will give you a fight of the year. He will He'll give you fight of the night in the car park on the way to the fight. That's how good Dimps Gillie is. And Oli Schmid, I think he's the real underdog. So he's definitely one to watch. Everyone will be talking about Oli, I think, after tomorrow's event. Win, lose, or draw. We go on to the... that's crazy that you got the welterweight title shot. You got the first round of the Grand Prix, the four-man Grand Prix. Both four men looking for $5,000 and a shiny new belt. You then have, underneath that... This is a real sleeper of a fight as well. The lightweight bout between Dom Marfan and Tim Rogers. Now, talking about sort of underdog sleepers and men that aren't as sort of hyped as they should be on the Australian regional scene, Tim Rogers is one of them. He's 4-0, spent his entire career in Diamondback in Adelaide, and boy, as an Australian sort of realm, we really do let the South Australian boys down a fair bit. Shout out Antonio Caruso. And I think also Brandon Pericik. I think he spent a lot of his time, if he's not from South Australia, I think he's at least dabbled there, maybe just fought in Diamondback. But look, South Australian boys do not get the love they deserve. Tim Rogers is a stud. He came off a victory over Jesse Medina. Anyone that can beat Jesse Medina belongs in Australian MMA up the top. So we're going to get to find out if Tim Rogers is for real. And he's taking on a guy that I think, if Quillan Salkill doesn't exist, is probably the eternal lightweight champion. And now that Quillan Salkill's moved on, I feel like Dom Marfan, I know Harry Webb is hanging in the wings, waiting to be the sort of and execute the greatest signing that Eternal's made. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see Dom Marfan back at some point. He's a hell of a grappler. I think I even remember, we all know how great David Martinez is at grappling. I think I remember seeing a photo at a comp. I don't know much about it, but Dom Marfan was standing tall. And David Martinez, they've been doing some training together, and he even said that he's taught Martinez the ability to not just be on top, but to cut people up with the elbows. So Tim Rogers not afraid of some blood either. So I would say whether it is on the feet or whether it is on the floor, the blood will pour. That's my blood bet for tomorrow night. I reckon that'll be a bloody fight. Be interesting to see who comes out on top. But I think, and I was listening to Callum Potter, the Rockstar Ramblings. If you hit up Callum Potter on Instagram, he had a good little preview to Eternal MMA 86. I reckon that he said that this might be like the number one contender for the Harry Webb David Martinez fight in August 17th on UFC weekend. I don't think so. I think it will be, and I'm just speaking out my ass here, the winner of Dom Marfan, Tim Rogers taking on Jack Becker August 17th, and then the winner of Martinez Webb and the winner of whoever wins this one and Becker, they will fight each other maybe in like October or November. So I don't know, just throwing that out there, but it's definitely a fight to watch with big ramifications to come. Now, the real sleeper fight, I believe, that no one is talking about, Nick Kepu, and I call him Blair Bretag. I could be wrong. I think it might be Bretag, and I apologise. And profusely, if you've ever seen his fights and his records, I apologise even more. I've only ever read his name or written it. I've never said it. I'm going to go with Blair Bretag. You can Bretag my face with your fist if I am wrong, so I do apologise. But Nick Kepu and Blair can put dudes to sleep, like out cold. If you watch Nick Kepu versus Alfred Stoddart, who Alfred Stoddart can put people to sleep. Yeah, I think it's going to be knockout of the night. One of those boys, knockout of the night. That's just what I'm thinking. I don't think it goes a distance. I don't think it gets out the second round. I just got a feeling that that someone is going to sleep and someone is going to sleep quick. Look, I'm very excited. This card is looking about as good as it gets. Now, hit up UFC Fight Pass. Eternal MMA 86. There's a lot at stake in terms of these fights. let me know your thoughts, Australian MMA underscore. Send me a message or emails or whatnot. Another fight that I wanted to bring up as well is keep an eye on. This is like, honestly, it could be one of the best cards. And I think, like, I try to not have my, like, you know, victim of the moment sort of creep in too much. But, like, maybe it's like, oh, have I watched a lot of these guys' fights? Or do I know these guys a little bit longer and know them more? And is that why I think it? But Callum Potter said it as well. So I'd like to know your thoughts if going in you think this might be one of the best cards. But like we said, you can never tell on paper until after the card. Odin Muscat and Moses Dang is definitely a fight to watch. I think this is not the first time we will see these boys fight. They will fight each other again, because I think both these men will be title challengers in the future. Both incredibly flashy, fun to watch, and most importantly, violent. And shout out Moses Dang for stepping up on, I believe, 8 days' notice. He did weigh 100 grams over, so shout out to Odin for taking the fight. It's only 100 grams, but still, 100 grams is 100 grams. And then of course, to round out sort of the card, this is just kind of some loose sort of information going in. Like I said, whatever you want to say, hit me up, Australian MMA underscore. Brogan Stewart, he's always fun to watch. Mason Nabetsu, fun fighter as well, out of Absolute MMA, like fighter sort of flying under the radar. I'm hearing a lot of good things about Christian Lapham, White Thunder, White Lightning, White Thunder, White something. Brenton Mumford, who's an Eternal MMA, Australian MMA veteran, has said, do not sleep on this man. He is coming. So keep an eye on him. Don't know much about Joe Brown. So Joe Brown, if you're listening, fucking prove me wrong and then go, oi, dickhead, why you should know my name. And then I will from then. Look, Toby Meach is also back. We've got Chris... Oh, I struggle with this one. Ustijanovsky. Definitely a fighter to watch if you've seen his fights around. Percy Mwambi out of Coach Subotic. His gym, MMAFT. Those boys are great. Of course, Cooper Rail, those boys training together. Percy, I believe, just super flashy, man. Like, he gets, like, highlight reel shit. So, definitely be watching. He's one to watch. Jesse Wynn. Also, I hope I'm making all the opponents of these guys really mad, because I'm not talking about them. Like I said, little bias. They're just guys I've seen fight before. Jesse Wynn, former high-level football player, like Aussie Rules football player. He's a real fighter to watch too, out of Wolves Den Academy, so keep an eye on him. Oh my God, it's just so stacked. It's such a stacked card. Look, guys, without further ado, I'm going to go into this so deep and so late tomorrow. So, look, go get UFC Fight Pass, 6 p.m. Australian Standard Time. Check it out. Eternal MMA 86. Australian MMA underscore if you want to send messages or just chat throughout the fight. Other than that, go check it out. Go read the preview on australianmma.com.au. Other than that, I will see you guys tomorrow. Or if you're watching this on another day, June 23rd.